Good morning. Thank you for coming. One, I believe President Biden made a good decision to invite congressional leaders down to the White House today to talk about a way forward on a security supplemental that also would include border security. So I think that's the right approach. But here's what I'd like President Biden to know and the country to know. If we don't fix parole, there will be no deal. What do I mean by that? The numbers are just absolutely shocking. The tool the Biden administration uses to implement its open border policy is the tool called parole. From 2013, FY 2014, which would cover part of 2013, the last decade, Obama and Trump on average paroled 5,623 people on average. Last year, FY 22, the Biden administration paroled 795,561 people. The law requires an individual analysis of the parole request based on two factors: unique humanitarian need or special benefit to the country. There's no way in hell they did an individual analysis on 795,561 people. This blanket parole approach, I think, is illegal. I think the Biden administration will lose in court. They paroled over 140,000 people from 4 countries. I think it's Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, what's the other one? Haiti. That is not the law. The statute regarding parole requires an individual analysis based on 2 very specific factors. So they have been abusing the tool called parole. And when you compare it to what other presidents have done, they went from 5,623 a year to 795,561 last year. What about this year, FY 23? Well, they're at 802,764 in fiscal year 23, which ended September FY 23, that started in September. We don't know the last quarter. It's going to be well over 1 million. So in FY 23, when we get all the numbers in, you're going to have about 1.2 million people have been paroled. To the American people, what the Biden administration is doing is illegal. It's incentivizing more illegal immigration. It is the tool of choice by the Biden administration to implement an open borders policy. Mr. President, there will be no deal. There will be no money for Ukraine, no money for Israel, no money for our own needs unless you stop the abuse of parole as well as other things. Senator Lankford has done a very good job of reforming the asylum law. He's done a good job of implementing new expedited removal procedures that will allow us to get better control over the border. But no matter what we do in terms of asylum and other areas of immigration reform at the border, if you don't fix parole, it's all for nothing. So I think there's a very clear message going to be coming from Republicans in Congress, not just in the Senate, but also the House. We need to stop what Biden is doing. If you want a supplemental to get through the United States Senate and eventually through the House, you have to stop abusing parole. Most Americans have no idea that when President Obama and Trump, when they were president, we used this authority on average 5,600 for the entire year. This FY 23 will be 1.2 million. This is why everybody's so upset with Mayorkas. They're abusing the law. In these negotiations, they're looking for every way to get around the law. No matter how you write it, none of us trust the Biden administration to implement the law. So there needs to be a hard cap on parole. There needs to be a reforming of the parole law. They need to go back to the original intent of the law of applying an individual analysis to each parole application. There needs to be a reporting requirement to Congress every month. Who did you parole? And why did you decide to parole that individual based on these 2 factors? That, to me, is a minimum in these negotiations. that we get back to the intent of the parole statute, that we get back to how it was used during the Obama-Trump years, and we stop the abuse of parole. There's no way you go from 5,000 a year to 1.2 million unless you want open borders. This is Exhibit A as to who they are in the Biden administration. And if you don't rein in this authority, they will keep waving people through until somebody stops them. This is the best chance I've seen since I've been up here to have true border security reform. I'm willing to help Ukraine. I want to help Ukraine. God knows Israel needs help. But I can't help Israel and Ukraine until I help our own country. And if you want to deal, Mr. President, stop abusing parole. Agree to a change in the parole law that will limit what you do and others that would come after you. And without fixing the parole problem, there will be no defense supplemental. Senator Thune.